50-year-old Beverly Carter lived in Scott, near Little Rock, Arkansas. She lived with her husband of 35 years, Carl, and together they had 3 boys, Carl Jr., Chad, and Christopher, and 5 grandchildren. Beverly and Carl first met when she was 16 when she started working at a dairy bar. A group of construction workers would eat there daily. One of them was Carl, and he was quick to strike up a conversation with her. He joked, "I knew I was going to get a wife when I got that hamburger." His instinct was right. They quickly married and had their first baby, Carl Jr. As blissful as the first years of marriage were, they were soon faced with their fair share of hard times and financial woes, moving a lot and having to live with family members to get by. Carl's job in construction would take him here, there, and everywhere. Beverly stayed at home with their 3 sons until their youngest started school. She decided it was a good time to get back into work, and in the early 2000s, she became interested in the real estate business. Just as things seemed to be on the up, tragically in 2003, 19-year-old Christopher was killed in a car accident, leaving behind his baby girl, Bailey. At the time, Carl and Beverly were living in a home they had designed and built themselves, but Chris had lived there as well, and there was now too much sadness attached to it, so they set about moving again. They eventually took in 11-year-old Bailey full-time, and more grandchildren followed Bailey. This gave Beverly and Carl so many reasons to smile and enjoy things again. Beverly adored being a grandmother and would half-jokingly beg her sons to have more babies. To say they were all close as a family would be an understatement.
Hey you, I just got home and got this beautiful present in the mail. I love it. Love it, love it. And I also got your card. You're so sweet. I love you very much.
As Beverly and Carl hit their 20th anniversary, they renewed their wedding vows. When they got married all those years ago, it was at the City Hall, and it was a quiet, quick, and low-key wedding. Beverly wanted to have this day to wear her dream dress and do everything they couldn't afford to do last time. She finally got her real estate license and joined Cry Like Realtor. Beverly had a natural flair, was confident, funny, and charming. Her friends said she had a personality that you couldn't forget, and a big goofy laugh that just made you smile. This warm energy translated into big sales, and she soon became the top in the company and one of the top 5 realtors in the state. She was never one to slow down and was always looking for the next thing to get stuck into. As her 50th birthday was approaching, she started training for marathons and races, and she and Carl started travelling together. On the evening of the 25th of September 2014, Beverly had a house viewing. The potential buyers were a young married couple seeking a change of scene. They were coming from a built-up city, and this house was nice and rural, very quiet, just what they were looking for. They wanted a quick buy and said they could pay in cash. This was all promising. Beverly had been keen to sell this place for a while, and things had been tight financially, with less sales than she was used to, so she was crossing everything and hoping the couple liked it. By now, she'd been in real estate for over a decade, and although she knew the potential risks of going to meet people alone, it had never caused her any issues before. She always wrote down the names and addresses and shared them with her husband too, just in case anything happened. She told the potential buyers she would be at the house just before 6 p.m. She could swing by on her way back from work and pick up dinner for her and Carl on the way home. She texted Carl saying, "Having a showing today, Mexican later, my treat." She gave him the address too, 14202 Old River Drive in Scott, along with the couple's names. Beverly said she loved him and would see him soon, and with this, she set off in her car. Little did she know, or could have ever known, the names and details she had been given were completely fake. An hour would pass, then another, and soon it was almost 9 p.m. Carl had been getting nervous but was trying to talk himself out of it. He phoned their son Carl Jr. He too worked in real estate and told his dad that realistically it wasn't that late. She had probably just got caught up. Sometimes these chats could go on for longer than expected, but Carl Sr. wasn't so sure. He went straight to the address of the property, and here he found his wife's car parked outside. A small sigh of relief. She must be inside. But as he got out of his car, he saw that the front door was wide open and none of the lights were on. He looked through the car window and spotted her bag and notebook on the passenger seat. Inside the property, there was no noise and no trace of Beverly. As he reached the final empty room, his stomach lurched and he grabbed his phone to call 911. The property was soon filled with Beverly's family, friends, and colleagues. It was now after midnight, 6 hours since anyone had last heard from her. Her closest friends in the agency all had a secret code for safety. They would ask work about a folder, so her best friend Brenda sent a text asking if she had left the folder on her desk. She got no response. As everyone huddled around on the cold, dark driveway, with only the lights of the police cars to see, her husband Carl's phone also lit up. It was a message from Beverly's phone, a moment of complete relief, until they read the texts. They said, "Sorry, phone been dead. Having drinks now." Beverly did not drink. Everyone that she would normally be with was at the house, and she hadn't replied to anyone else's messages. Clearly, it was not Beverly. A neighbour from across the house told the detectives that they had seen a black car pull up before Beverly's had got there. She described the man that got out as a skinny white male with short hair. The car had been parked oddly. The trunk was backed up close to the front door. The neighbour didn't see or hear anything else after that, but they did have a vague time and a description to work from. At the time, Little Rock did have a high violent crime rate, nearly quadruple the national average in fact, and the police had a lot of lines of inquiry to look into. Beverly's phone was being tracked and had been on the move for a few hours, but it now appeared that it had been turned off or the battery had died.
As the Pulaski County Sheriff Crime Scene Unit combs through this home in Scott, real estate agent Stacy Medlock is searching the surrounding area.
We just want her safe. We want her safe, back with her family.
Medlock and dozens of other agents posting flyers asking for information and looking for leads to find their missing colleague.
If they have seen anything, any kind of vehicles, anything, let the police know.
Pulaski County Sheriff's officers called to this home around 9:30 Thursday night by Beverly Carter's husband after he hadn't heard from her for several hours.
It's a reality check, actually, to make sure people know where we are and who we are showing property to.
When he had last spoken with her 4 hours earlier, she was planning on showing the home to a client.
She did actually call and make the appointment, and I believe that they're checking out all the records.
According to officers' reports, Beverly's husband found the scene much like this, her car in the driveway with her purse locked inside, but the door to the home wide open. When he searched the house, he found no sign of his wife. Sheriff's investigators processed the home for evidence throughout much of the day.
This is just too close. It's just unbelievably unreal. Just too close to home.
Even as those who know Beverly are trying to process the fact she's still missing.
Over 200 volunteers joined in the search, and soon the case had spread far past her small community. Hashtag Find Beverly was trending, and huge amounts of grounds were being covered. Fellow realtors joined in too, and a lot of firms closed in solidarity. Many places immediately started changing their practices. Agents began signing up for self-defense lessons and made sure people showed houses in pairs at the very least. Carl was still in shock, and in between searching for her, he was appealing using every media outlet that was running her story.
I heard that she had a cash buyer, a referral to her, and she was kind of excited about that. By 9 o'clock, I knew something was wrong. By 8 o'clock, I knew something was wrong, but I give it till 8:30. I just would like to have my wife back. I beg anybody, just take her over and drop her off on a sidewalk and keep driving. I ask for that right there. There's some crazy people out here in the world. I mean, sorry, there is. And I just pray that they'll be better than Beverly. Been doing it for about 12 years. She knew what she was doing. She was dang good at it. But just don't take but one crook.
The first place they obviously needed to hone in on was the house she was looking after the listing for. Who had she met that day? Who was this mystery cash offer couple? The names written in her notebook were Stephen and Crystal Adams, but the phone numbers attached had recently been created using another phone. None of these details were real. The person that had set them up had to have a real number to be able to do this, and working backwards, it gave them a name, Crystal Lowry. Running her details through the system turned up nothing. She had no criminal record, but her husband, Aaron Lewis, did. The 33-year-old was a serial offender with a string of prior convictions starting at just 14 years old. He spent 6 years in prison for robbing a bank, got out and started transporting stolen cars. He'd committed fraud, scammed people, robbed houses and businesses. Aaron was now estranged from his wife Crystal, but they still lived together, so investigators started closely monitoring their home, but Aaron was clearly on the move. They issued a bolo, or be on the lookout, so people could see his face. They now believed he had kidnapped her and was potentially holding her somewhere.
We expect we will get information today. My expectation is to find Beverly and find her okay, but time is of the essence.
The plan today is we're going to set up a grid around the area where Beverly went missing and search everything we possibly can. Hopefully not find anything except her. I've had texts and calls from the general public. I've got calls from all over the state from realtors and owners and brokers that are pledging anything and everything that they possibly can do to help out.
Knock on doors to let people know that you're walking through their backyards.
It means everything to me. The prayers, the emails, the Facebook posts, the sharing, everything it just shows that what we give is appreciated and it comes back when we need it. Beverly was one of my 2 first agents and everything's going to work out.
On September 28th, Aaron crashed his car. Aaron was taken to hospital but escaped without anyone discharging him. A warrant was finally issued for his arrest and he was facing a charge of kidnapping, and one person that saw him recognised his face from the news. He called 911.
911? Hey, I'm sitting over here. They're looking for a guy here that was involved in the realtor being kidnapped. And this guy looks like him. And he is nervous, and he's out here at a bus stop.
What bus stop?
Green Mountain Drive in Rainwood. I mean, it might not be him. He's going into the subway now.
All right, we'll get someone out there.
Okay, now I had a guy walk out there and talk to him. I just went out there to see him. He says they think it's him.
When they pulled him in for questioning, it was clear he was going to do everything he could to remain in control of the interview. This was on his terms. He was cold, unbothered, and unwilling to talk.
I'll give you completely what you want. This ain't going to stay. This is going to fail.
He handed over his phone and then played a recording.
Well, actually, I'll let you listen to something. And then as soon as I let you listen to it, then you'll know that I'm serious. You're running out of time.
It was Beverly.
Carl, it's Beverly. I just want to let you know I'm okay. I haven't been hurt. Just do what he says, and please don't call the police. If you call the police, it could be bad. I just want you to know I love you very much.
It was terrifying to listen to, but even on the recording you can hear how calm and strong she's being, despite the nightmare that must have been unravelling in her head. Beverly thought she was meeting a couple, but when she got there it was just him. Aaron admitted he had gone inside the house with Beverly and asked her to take some pictures to send to his wife. The pictures were a little blurry and shaky, and detectives felt she must have sensed that something was off. She was in a rush to take them and just get out of there. But before she could get to the front door, Aaron said he pulled out a taser and said, "You're about to have a very bad day. You're being kidnapped." The question was she still being held somewhere, or was it all a trap and she was no longer alive? The glimmer of hope that they had that they may be able to bring her home safely was further fueled when Aaron said he wasn't going to reveal where she was, but insinuated she could still be alive.
How long do we have? How long can a person survive without food and water?
They were able to keep him in custody, and if the search for Beverly was not already intense enough, it had now reached a critical point.
Our suspect is in custody. He was arrested this morning. He is in the interrogation room at this point, in the process of being interviewed in regard to his connection to this disappearance of Beverly Carter. So we will have him here for as long as we need.
Where is she?
Beverly Carter,
Beverly
where is
Carter,
she?
where is she?
Where is she? What is your relation to her?
Did you do anything?
You?
I'm asking you a question. Did you do anything?
No, did you?
Why did they have you arrested?
I have no idea what that told me. Do you know Beverly Carter?
Him or me?
You.
No.
Where is she?
After 12 more hours of questioning, the team got a major break from his phone data. It led them to a concrete business about 20 miles away from the house she was showing. But it was here that hope was snatched away. On September 30th, just 5 days into the search, Beverly Carter's body was found in a shallow grave at the cement plant. It was a previous place of work for Aaron.
We have a breaking news alert right now from Arkansas. The body of missing realtor Beverly Carter has been found in a shallow grave north of Little Rock.
Her hands were bound and her whole face had been completely wrapped in duct tape. The autopsy confirmed she had died from suffocation as a result of the tape. The Carter family issued a statement. "We are devastated at the loss of our precious Beverly. There is now a hole in our hearts that will never be filled. Mr. Lewis robbed us of an amazing wife, loving mother and grandmother. Her grandkids will never get to know the magnitude of her greatness." In Aaron's car, police found the duct tape and some of what turned out to be Beverly's hair. And in his and Crystal's house, they found her phone. They also arrested Aaron's estranged wife, 41-year-old Crystal Lowry, believing that she had to be involved. Crystal was more forthcoming and didn't want to play the same games that Aaron had. She admitted to everything right away. She said it was all a big plot to kidnap Beverly and extort money. She denied having any part in killing her, that was all Aaron, she said, but she admitted she was part of the abduction. It had all started, she claimed, when she and Aaron had separated because they couldn't afford to move out of their home. They needed money and decided to start targeting specifically married women who worked alone in high-earning jobs. An online search had shown Beverly's face, and that, she said, was as quickly as they decided on who their victim would be. "I wasn't going to have any contact with her because I didn't want to be involved," Crystal said. After Aaron forced her into the trunk, he took a picture of her which he sent to Crystal saying, "It's done." He eventually drove her out to their house and locked her in the bathroom, with Crystal standing guard with a stun gun. Crystal said Aaron started to panic, knowing she would be able to identify him from looking at the names on the prescriptions, and he just decided he had to kill her using duct tape. He wrapped it around her face, and it took her about 5 minutes to die. It goes without saying, but her last hours must have been beyond anything anyone could ever comprehend. Crystal said she initially refused to help him dispose of her body, but he convinced her by saying all she had to do was hold the light. The pair drove to a Walmart to buy a shovel and then went to bury her. After this, they went to a Waffle House. Aaron Lewis and Crystal Lowry were charged with capital murder and kidnapping. Aaron pleaded not guilty, but Crystal wanted to accept a plea deal. She said she would testify against her ex-husband as well. Her charge was then reduced to a first-degree murder one, which in July 2015 she pleaded guilty to, receiving a 30-year prison sentence. Aaron showed no remorse at the thought of dragging her family through a trial. In fact, he loved the attention from the start. He relished in leading the officers on wild goose chases, telling lies and dropping breadcrumbs which he would later retract. He was begging reporters to interview him, and truly thought he was the star of his own twisted show.
Aaron, did you kill Beverly Carter?
No.
You did not?
No.
Who did?
Say? I had a co-defendant. I haven't seen her for 2 days. Now they're showing me pictures of this. I haven't seen her.
How can you explain what happened?
I had a co-defendant, Trevor.
Who's Trevor?
He's Air Force at the military base.
And what's your relation to Trevor?
They want he's got texts back and forth to me and him, and then they wanted my phone.
Why Beverly? Why Beverly?
She was a rich broker.
Do you have anything to say to the family?
Sorry.
What else do you want to say to her family?
Sorry.
Why Beverly?
Because she was just a woman that worked alone, a rich broker.
Did you kill her?
No.
More videos in there that completely helped my defense.
You said you didn't trust anyone. Why do you have those fears?
Because they said at the detective's office that I never requested an attorney, and they forgot to inform Little Rock police officers to lie for them. And the Little Rock officers say that I specifically asked for an attorney.
Are you going to get co-counsel?
I hope so. 14 hours of interrogation.
After hiring and firing a lot of lawyers and 2 months of representing himself, Aaron's new defense team came up with a whole new story. Beverly had willingly gone to meet him for consensual sex, and she had accidentally died at his house, but Crystal was the killer, and not him. The court opened with the prosecution saying, unspeakable, terrifying, suffering. She died a horrible, terrifying death that no one deserves. Beverly loved her life. The last thing Beverly experienced was unspeakable terror at that man's hands. The jury listened as Aaron's lawyers picked apart Beverly's life in the cruelest ways, trying anything they could to discredit her, her job, her relationship, her financial issues and her marriage were all dissected, and they suggested these were all reasons for her to be unfaithful. Aaron's lawyer said, "We've got to look at this truthfully, not from a fantasy. Beverly was making bad decisions at this point in her life. Let's tell the truth about what's going on here. Everybody has a secret life," he said, suggesting that she had been having a midlife crisis and going to meet with Aaron was part of this. As hurtful as this all was to hear, so many lies being told about someone so loved, her family and friends sat quiet and stoic. Carl took to the stand and defended his wife's name. They had their issues. What couple didn't? But they did have an amazing relationship. His wife was his best friend, and he was hers. Aaron testified in his own defense and said he had brought Beverly home with the intentions of sleeping together and invited Crystal in as well. He said when he left the house briefly, he came back to find that Crystal had killed her. All he did, he said, was bury her. And the phone recording of Beverly's voice?
Call the police. It could be bad. Just want you to know I love you very much.
It was all AI, he claimed. The more the prosecution pulled his story to shreds, the more aggressive and angry he became. His true self was now on show.
Good evening. The trial for the man accused of killing Beverly Carter enters the third day, and the jury heard dramatic testimony today from the state's star witness.
Jurors have been hearing from defendant Aaron Lewis's estranged wife, Crystal Lowry, who took a plea deal agreeing to testify against Lewis.
Well, that's right, and court is actually still ongoing as we speak. Crystal Lowry certainly doing her part to aid the prosecution today. Now, the state's key witness, Lewis's wife, Crystal Lowry, said everything in Lewis's affidavit was, quote, a made-up story, testifying Lewis and Lowry plotted to kidnap Carter and hold her for ransom, killing her when she had no money. Now, the prosecution has called about 20 witnesses.
Crystal testified that the plan had been for Aaron to kidnap Beverly and keep her in an abandoned part of the concrete plant while they made ransom demands. But she said they were unaware of changes at the plant that would make this plan impossible. With Beverly tied up in the back of his car, Aaron had to change his plans. Crystal said to him, "Where are you going to take her? Because I don't want her at the house." He didn't have anywhere to take her, and he was driving around and he said he could get pulled over at any moment, and he needed to get off the road, she added. Aaron drove Beverly to his house where the couple kept her bound with duct tape in the bathroom. Crystal said she stood in there with Beverly as Aaron went back to the cement plant to get her purse and bank card. But by the time he got there were people around, so he had to abandon this. He drove back and the couple forced Beverly to record a 12-second ransom message for Carl. This message never got sent to Carl and he wouldn't hear it until after she was already dead. Despite his vile lies, the case against Aaron was as close to watertight as it could be, but the ever-so-confident prosecution would be faced with a huge blow.
After sitting through hours of pretrial hearings, I can tell you prosecutors still have a lot of evidence to use against Lewis in trial, but there are some huge pieces of evidence now being thrown out.
Due to errors in the way the searches of his home and car had been conducted, some of the major findings were not allowed to be admitted into evidence. This included her hair and duct tape in his car, and her phone being found at his house. 3 huge pieces of evidence, but they had to push on. Aaron's lawyers closed their argument saying that she was not abducted and was there willingly. She was not kidnapped and there's basically no evidence of that. The only honest and true verdict will be not guilty. A lot of what Aaron did was in an attempt to protect Crystal, his lawyer said. If nothing else, he's dedicated to Crystal. After an hour of deliberations, the jury unanimously found Aaron Lewis
guilty of capital murder and kidnapping.
Well, I was so thankful to be able to take the stand and tell everybody how amazing she was. But it's that, to love and to be resilient and against all odds fight. And if it's not an Aaron Lewis in your life, whatever it is, just fight and fight for your happiness and love the people that you're with.
I spoke to the prosecutors right when they left the courtroom as well, and through this they got to know the family pretty well. Let's take a listen.
First of all, let me tell you, they're a fantastic family, and I honestly say that. They're wonderful to work with, and it's hard not to get close to them. I mean, if you want to get to know Beverly, you have to get to know her family, and so that makes it difficult. But in the end, justice is served. I'm happy for them. I'm happy for Pulaski County, honestly.
Why did you decide to put Aaron Lewis on the stand today?
Well, we knew that, he had to tell a story. If there was any chance that the jury would find him not guilty, they were going to have to hear from him.
Was that something that he wanted to do? Did he ask you to be put on the stand?
I mean, it certainly was his decision to testify, yes.
And that last person that you heard from was defense attorney Bill James. I had questioned him about his strategy of putting Aaron Lewis on the stand today. Now, according to the prosecutor's office, they don't believe Aaron did himself any favors by taking the stand. It was certainly what they called a turning point in the case. Alicia, you were in there at the time. And but Bill James says that strategy was sound. It was necessary. He said Aaron Lewis had to get on stand to explain some of the things that he had written in that affidavit.
At the request of the family, the prosecutor took the death penalty off the table and he was sentenced to 2 life terms without any chance of parole. Carl Jr. gave a statement in court and said the way he had heard his mother being spoken about had disgusted and upset everyone. He said the only thing she had done that day was just go to work. Crystal Lowry petitioned to have her 30-year sentence reduced, but in 2020 this was denied. After his conviction, Aaron Lewis continues to be in and out of court and went on trial again in 2021 after assaulting state prison guards. Her family, friends and colleagues continued to work hard to make sure Beverly's name is associated with nothing but good and can hopefully bring change. Carl Jr. made it his mission to campaign for safety, especially in jobs where people can be in vulnerable positions and working alone. He founded the non-profit organisation, the Beverly Carter Foundation. It is dedicated to the safety of real estate professionals and those they serve by providing research, information, consulting, training, and support to every level of the real estate industry.
Nearly 7 years ago, Beverly Carter, a local realtor, was abducted and then murdered after showing a house in Scott. Fast forward to today, realtors are using new technology aimed at keeping them safe.
It's bittersweet. I wish that my mom had one that day.
Carl Carter, Beverly Carter's son, keeps his mom with him
every day
through this keychain with her initials on the back, but it's not your typical piece of jewelry.
Since losing mom in the fall of 2014, we've seen these great advances in technology.
The jewelry made by Invisaware is actually a wearable safety device. With the double punch of the button, it alerts a list of your emergency contacts, and it shows them exactly where you are located. Invisaware.
And of course, working alone, that it's just a quick, easy way for them to discreetly let their circle of people know that they need assistance.
Brittany Conley is a realtor with RE/MAX in North Little Rock. She showed us the same Invisaware device. Instead, this one is a necklace.
How many lives could you save out there?
a piece of jewelry she never knew she needed until she became a realtor working alone, especially now in a market that's booming and keeping her busier than ever. Carl believes with this new technology, others like his mom will have a fighting chance if ever faced with a situation like hers.
It's so hard losing my mom, but you know, there is that peace to know that there is good that can come from such a tragedy.
Her husband Carl says nights are the hardest, going to sleep without his wife there, watching the shows she would have loved, waking up and remembering all over again that she isn't with him. Carl Jr. said, "It's a roller coaster, as you can imagine. Weird things give me the deepest feelings of grief I've ever known, but then I'll see a photo of her smile and feel better. In closing, call your mom, be good to your mom, call or text her daily." His wife Kim spoke of how sad it is that her grandchildren will grow up without her. Nothing made her happier than teaching them to ride bikes, helping them to tie their shoes, or sneaking them little treats to eat. She said those babies will never know how wonderful she was. We had so many good years left with her. The world is a darker place without her. We are so grateful to all of our viewers and all of our patrons, and we'd love you to consider joining our little community over on Patreon. It supports us as a channel, and we couldn't be more appreciative of anyone that does so. It also gives you behind the scenes, extra episodes, and early ad-free access.